I think having those interactions and those hard conversations in private has led to being able to coach them a little bit harder in games. But at the same time, I try to make it a point that anytime I get on a kid, I also, I'll put my arm around him and I'll give him a compliment.
All right, we're here with Coach Landen Cummings of the East High School Leopards. And I wanted to come in hot with a controversial question here.
All right.
And that is, what is it like having the pressure of the past East High School basketball teams with Troy Bolton coming in here and winning 2 back-to-back championships in High School Musical, the documentary, High School Musical 1 and 3?
Well, with this being the big anniversary year of it, it definitely gets brought up a lot, and it's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation to live up to. I'm hoping that we can have similar success to what Troy was able to accomplish his years here, and we can hang another banner, hopefully.
It's funny, as I was in the parking lot here, some people, and they had an accent, I'm not sure where they were from, but they were reenacting a High School Musical thing right out front, and then they came in. Does that happen? Do you get
daily
tourists?
Literally 365 days.
Wow.
So they've kind of transitioned it to guided tours by student council, but last year in the 24-25 school year, they had self-guided tours.
Wow.
That the people could come in, get a map off the door at the front office, and then it kind of showed them where different things in the movies took place, and they would walk around, and we'd get tourists and visitors doing the High School Musical tour that would walk into the gym during our practice, and I'd have to stop practice and, ask them to either leave the gym, or if they came in during a water break, they'd take pictures while the boys were getting their water, and sometimes I'd even jump in and take the picture for them. And
Wow.
So, yeah, we get people doing TikToks out in front of the school literally every day. We have people walking through the school doing the High School Musical tours literally every day.
That's wild. That's got to be a little bit of, not just pressure, but a little bit of an annoyance, like you said, in practice to kind of deal with that. But take me through, last year was your first year here.
Yep.
What were some of the successes? What are some positive things that you took from last year that went well?
Honestly, I'd say the biggest success is coming back. Before I got here, we had 6 different boys basketball varsity head coaches in 8 years. Wow. My seniors in 24-25 had 4 different coaches in 4 years. So constantly learning a new system, constantly learning new terminologies and new offenses and new personalities of your coaches is kind of hard on kids when they have that little window of time to play. And so I think the biggest success is just making it through the season and having enough fun and enough energy and excitement to want to come back. For me, on the court, I would say we learned a lot. I think we were in a lot of games. We had probably 10 or 12 games throughout a 23-game season where we had a single-digit scoring quarter, and it just changes the dynamic of the whole game, especially in that third quarter, going to halftime down 6, and then you put up 8 points, and they put up 19, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're down 20-something going into the fourth quarter, and it happened a lot. And so I think learning from that and knowing what I could do as a coach to kind of mitigate those runs from the other team and just being more aware of time and timeout usage and figuring out my rotation. It was a really quick hire. Mm-hmm. I got brought on in September.
Yeah, wow.
The season started, tryouts were second week of November. So I had 9 weeks from the day I had our parent meeting to the first day of tryouts. So it was a lot in a short amount of time. And so I just kind of played it by ear and learned as much as I could in the time I was there, just to kind of prepare for a full off season and kind of some of the things that we're going to do this year. So it was a lot of learning. Going from an assistant coach on Coach Stratman's staff to being a head coach was a lot, and it's kind of like becoming a parent for the first time. Mm-hmm. You can be auntie and uncle and play with the kids and change the kids, and then eventually you give the kids back to their parents and you go about your business until it's your kid and you don't have somebody to give it to. That's kind of the analogy I use for people for becoming a head coach. I don't just show up and have somebody tell me, hey, this is your team, this is when you practice, here's your gear. Now I have to order the gear. I have to talk to other coaches and organize practice. I have to build schedules and reach out to schools and see who's coming here and who wants to play at their place. And so I think it was just learning. There wasn't really a clear-cut one, like, oh, that was the great, outside of winning the first game of the season as a head coach. There wasn't a lot of milestone wins. We won, the rivalry game with West. That was fun. But overall, I would say just the learning, the experience, and getting ready for the long run and having full off seasons and player development was the biggest win of the first year.
Yeah, I think that's so much of what outsiders who aren't coaches don't see, right? Is all those little things that are going on that the head coach has to you're the bottom of a funnel of opinions and ideas and vendors and everybody else coming in here. So that's a lot to bring on. What advice, now that you've been through your first year as the head coach, for any upcoming first-year head coaches, what advice would you give to them? What could they kind of learn from your mistakes, I guess, is a way of asking that.
I would say be patient. Understand that as a new coach, you're inheriting a program, you're inheriting players that have been coached and taught a certain system. And so you're not only implementing your system, but you're also kind of deprogramming them from what they've learned. And it's hard. And the older people are, whether they're adults or children or teenagers, the older they are, the harder it is to break their old habits. It's kind of like they say learning a new language is easier when you're younger because you don't have the thought process of it's not the red door, it's the door red. And so we want to say the red door even if we're saying it in a different language. And so I think just understanding that until you really have a complete off season with a group of freshmen, that will be the reflection of what your imprint and your program is. Be patient and just understand that the dynamics of high school basketball are way bigger than any coach. The friends and the guys who play club ball together that decide they want to team up and be teammates in high school, and some of the issues and concerns that parents have, and then you deal with administration. It's a lot. And so I would say patience with your athletic director, patience with your team managers, be patient with your assistant coaches, be patient with varsity only coaches, be patient with the freshman coach who wants a bigger role in the varsity rotation and he wants to keep stats or he wants to help wherever he can. I think just understanding that Rome wasn't built overnight and rebuilding programs doesn't happen overnight. And so a lot of the new first-year coaches I don't think most of us know what we're getting into. We kind of have an idea, and then you get into it, and it's kind of, whoa, this is a lot. And so I think being patient and asking questions, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of really successful coaches kind of be big brothers and mentors to me through the interview process and through the first year, during the season, and even in team camps, and guys that I run into that ask me, hey, how's your first year? And, it's been really good to have that support from other coaches, some of which you even compete against, but they understand that they're in year 15 and 20 and you're in year 1, and they remember what it was like to be in year 1. So I think that would be the biggest advice is don't be afraid to ask successful coaches questions and be patient with the entire process.
Take me through that of building a new culture here. Like you said, you've had a bunch of head coaches come in and out of here beforehand, and now you're wanting to establish a culture. So for those parents or kids that would watch this that are hoping to come and play at East High School, what is the culture you hope to establish here, and what should they expect?
The biggest part of the culture that I want to establish is consistency. I told the hiring committee that I don't want this to be a stepping stone. I had other jobs to get me ready to be a varsity head coach, and I don't want to be here for 2 years and then bolt off to somewhere closer. I relocated. I moved from Riverton to downtown Salt Lake to be closer to the school. I've told the boys that I'm going to condone and support gym rat behavior. So if they want to get in the gym, I'm 8 minutes away. I'll meet you there and open it up and let you get your shots up. I want to create a culture of togetherness and brotherhood, and I want guys to know that coach has their back, and if they go to bat for me, I'm going to go to bat for them, whether that's playing time or understanding and explaining systems or helping my seniors get looks from college coaches. I want my kids to know that it's not going to be just a quick flash in the pan 1 year and then coach is gone. A fun part about being from the AAU world is we spend years with our kids, and so we build those relationships with the players, with the parents, and I want to incorporate a similar type of brotherhood, so to speak, in our community and within our players and our system and our program. I want our older guys to look out for the younger guys and say, when I was a sophomore, I didn't know this, so here's a little bit of, inside information of how you could be more prepared, how you can be in better shape, stretching, drinking water, get to practice early. I want that kind of brotherhood within our program, and I know it all starts with me, so I have to lead by example and be open to communication and walk in the gym and high five guys as they're getting stretched and getting their shoes on and joke around and encourage them to be open with me and create a friendship, but also know that when it's time to get to business, we got to work. And so there's time to play, there's time to have fun, and there's time to be serious and compete. And I think as we build that culture and the younger guys embrace it and take it in, I think it kind of becomes infectious, and everybody coming through the program kind of has that same foundation and expectation.
Yeah, and I had a chance to see you guys play over this last summer courtside because I help out at a school and we played with you. And this was a question that I wanted to ask you just that first time when I met you. Is it seems like you've got this balance of establishing discipline with your team, but also showing that you care about them. So how do you balance that? Because to discipline, sometimes there's discomfort and there's pain in that, but at the same time, they need to know that their coach is going to go to bat for them. So how do you balance those two dynamics?
I think by the time that's on display in a game, I think we've had 20 of those interactions in practices and in open gyms, and I get after guys anytime they're on the court. The level of expectation is the same, and so if it's a 7 a.m. open gym or a 7 p.m. open gym, or if we're in the weight room, or if we're in a team camp, or if we're in a scrimmage, or if we're in a region game, they kind of get that same version of me, which makes it easy for me to hold them accountable and say, the plays, or what our goal is in this set, and if you're deviating and we're not doing things the way that we need to, then I'll sit you down. And so I think having those interactions and those hard conversations in private has led to being able to coach them a little bit harder in games. But at the same time, I try to make it a point that anytime I get on a kid, I also I'll put my arm around him and I'll give him a compliment, or I'll say something to him, even if I pull him out of a game and in the moment of pulling him out, I might be hard on him. I'll let him kind of go down the line and high five everybody, and then I'll bring him back up and have just a little personal, 10 or 20 second conversation with him and send him back to the bench. And then on his way back in the next time, I'll give him some words of encouragement and then say, okay, that last sequence is over. Let's get back on track, and then put them back in. So I think that's a big part of it is I can't not hold them accountable, but I can also kind of acknowledge when they do good things, or even help them hit the reset before we get back in the game to get back on track from whatever the first incident was.
Yeah, I think that's tough, just psychology-wise of humans, and then you take it down to teenagers of, I'm dealing it with my son who's 10, and he's playing baseball right now, and a coach corrected him in practice, and he comes out and coach hates me. And it's like, no, like he cares about you. Like, that's why he's telling you that, is because he cares. If he didn't care and didn't say anything, then we got a problem.
Yeah, the ones that don't get talked to are the ones that should worry.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to most with the team you have coming this next year? And you have a reclassification, right? So you were in one of the toughest regions in 5A, and now you're going to get reclassified and moved into a different region, which I think will bring a little bit more flexibility, hopefully.
Yeah. The thing I would say I'm the most excited for is the growth that we had through team camp. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of those aha moments, a lot of those, hey, coach, if we're doing this and they do this, if he does this and I throw it here, that's open, right? And it's just finally understanding and refreshing the system and not learning a new system. And now that my varsity guys are going to be the second year in the system and they have great chemistry, we're going to shoot the ball really well this year. We have bigger, more athletic guys that are going to play bigger roles. And I think a lot of guys embrace their roles and their expectations through team camp. And we kind of started figuring our identity for the season back in June and not in October and November. And so I'm really excited that we're gonna shoot the ball really well. We're gonna defend really well. We're not necessarily gonna have a star player. We're gonna have 3 or 4 guys that could carry our team in any game, or if someone's in foul trouble, we've got versatility and shooters and on-ball defenders and shot blockers and guys that'll finish at the rim. And we're gonna create a lot of problems for teams because we won't have 1 or 2 star players that you kind of key in on. And if you do key in on whoever happens to be leading the team and scoring that game, then you're going to open opportunities for a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th guy to come in and have a big game. So we're going to have a lot of depth. We're going to have some really good young guys that'll come off the varsity bench. We're going to have a lot of really good experience in seniors in the varsity rotation. And just watching the guys get better in team camp was huge. Yeah. It was really, really good for the program. I thought our best games were probably the last 5 or 6 games of the season. Mm-hmm. So we got right to that 2.5 month mark of being together and running the system, and that's when things started clicking. Mm-hmm. And so right as things started clicking, the season ended. And then we had the game at Cypress that just got away from us in the last 40 seconds of the game. And so knowing what we were capable of and then seeing the growth and development in the guys that'll be in that varsity rotation and their excitement and their sharing the ball and just the camaraderie with that group, it's a really fun group to coach. And they have high expectations with the reclassification and their experience and their size and their skill set. So it'll be really fun. We're going to have fun. We're going to be competitive, and we're going to go out and shock some people, hopefully, on how good we can be.
That's exciting. That's an exciting thing to go into a season with that, because I think there are other schools that don't have that enthusiasm, or maybe they don't have the bodies or whatever else is going on there. So that's exciting. It'll be fun to watch. A lot of coaches kind of have a style, right? There are some defensive, hard-nosed coaches. There are run-and-gun coaches, and basketball has a lot going on at any given time. But how would you define kind of your coaching style? We get up and down the court pretty well, but it's not quick shots. Yeah. So we're not necessarily a run-and-gun team in today's game, unless you have, a traditional back-to-the-basket big. You kind of play with more guards, and the perimeter kind of dominates the game. So we're definitely a perimeter-dominated team. I would say, if I had to describe our team, I would say we're versatile. We got a lot of guys that can play multiple positions. We got a lot of guys that can defend multiple positions. We got a lot of guys that'll knock down 3 out of 5 threes and then get to the basket and finish through contact. And my starting 2 guard will probably be my backup point guard. And we've got a lot of pieces that can move around and do different things and create matchup problems for a lot of teams. And so I would say versatile is probably the way I describe the team, if I had to put a word on it. And then you have tryouts coming up in a few months. Mm-hmm. So for the kids coming up, 8th graders or maybe 9th graders who didn't make the team last year, as a coaching staff, what are you looking for in tryouts? What can they expect from tryouts? What is that going to look like in your program?
Competition. Yeah. Come in and compete. You got to have a motor. Plays, we can teach you plays. Shooting, you can get with trainers and go to the gym with your buddies and get up 100 shots or all the individual skill work and things like that, those are just skills, just like any other skill. The more you work on it, the better you get at it. And so understanding the skill level that you need to be at is one thing, but really ultimately, if you come to the gym and you're ready to compete and you're ready to work and you're ready to talk and be loud and energetic, and when you're in between those four lines, you give everything you can, and you know you can rest when you sub out or when you're done with the drill, those are the guys that are going to make the best impression and be a part of the 25-26 program. And so if I have to tell you to run harder, if I have to ask you, are you hurt or are you just lazy? If I have to question your motor, then those are the ones that are going to be on the bubble. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a competitor, we have enough talent at every age group that we got guys that'll score the basketball, and we got guys that'll create plays and run up the scoreboard. But it's the intangibles that I really focus on. And, you know, do guys fall on the court, and do you run over and help guys up? Or do you just kind of turn and walk away? You know, if a guy makes a good shot, do you tell him good shot? Or if he gives you a good assist, do you tell him, hey, good pass? I always tell my guys, be the teammate you want to play with. So if you want the ball when you're open, when your teammates are open, give them the ball. If you want people to acknowledge that was a good shot, then when your teammates do it, acknowledge, hey, man, nice shot. That's kind of just the foundation of respect. And I tell our coaches too, you know, coach the way you would want to be coached. Mm-hmm. If you don't like aggressive, confrontational, like coaching, then, you know, think about that when you're coaching your guys. And so it's a lot of reciprocating what works and what you like and what resonates with you. And so we try to make that a reflection of the program and tell the boys to kind of play by that same set of rules.
Yeah. And I think there is a level of surprise it seems like some coaches want to keep with tryouts. So like there are certain drills or whatever that they want to see the new guys approach that in a new way. But are there any that you're willing to share? How do you bring that out in tryouts? What kind of things are you doing in tryouts to bring out the competition and to show them that, hey, it's effort that's involved here?
A lot of defensive stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll do 3-on-3 competitions, but you score your points with defensive stops, not with scoring offense. We do a lot of shadowing on the dribble. So we'll have one guy working ball handling, one guy working on turning your defender, staying in front of your man. I always tell guys that good basketball plays don't always show up on stat sheets. Mm-hmm. You know, if I can make the point guard turn 3 times in the backcourt and he crosses half court with 1 second before the 10-second mark, we've just ate up 9 seconds of their shot clock. Now we've sped up their offense. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to get into that 10 seconds or shorter, quicker, and force up a quicker shot because we did our job in the backcourt. There's no metric for that.
Yeah.
I tell guys that contesting shots without fouling and making them miss and then finishing the play with a rebound is just as good as a blocked shot, but there's not a contested shot without a foul stat sheet. Mm-hmm. So I always tell guys that, you know, the things that don't show up on the stat sheet a lot of the times are the things that make the biggest impact on a game. We don't keep track of how many times guys on the bench tell the backside of the defense that the shooter is open, or they yell cover down. Like there's no stat sheet for, you know, Jeff Smith screamed cover down to his teammate 9 times. He's an all-region bench player. So it's a lot of the things that don't show up. So we do a lot of defensive things, understanding shell drill rotations, baseline help, cover downs, understanding how to keep your man in front of you. You don't have to go for a steal and get blown by to be playing good defense. Yeah. Things like that are things that we'll start day one of tryouts and just let everybody know. If you play defense, you'll get on the court. Guys are going to score points, but if you're a liability defensively, we're probably not going to play you a ton.
Yeah, the bench comment you made me remember back to our game is you had an active bench. I mean, and them being vocal and talking, and I think that's rare. I think that's rare to have the guys on the bench that engaged. How do you do that? How did you get them that involved and vocal?
It really started in the season. It really started in practices and back in November at the beginning of tryouts, and I ultimately told them, a quiet team is a losing team, and being on the bench, you guys have a unique perspective where you can see things that guys in the game are on adrenaline, and they're looking at their man, and they're looking at the ball, and they're looking at court spacing, and is he driving? Am I a help defender? Am I a gap defender? Is my man going baseline? Do I bump him and open up, or do I just chase him through? And so I tell guys, quiet teams are losing teams. If we're not talking, and if the guys who have the opportunity to survey the entire court and yell things out to your teammates aren't helping, then you guys are contributing to the struggles and things that we're going to have in the game, just like you can contribute to the successes that we have in the game by talking to your teammates. And I tell guys, if you're on the bench, you're still on the team. Mm-hmm. You're not on the bench to be quiet. It's you can talk to guys, you can say things to guys and help us out, because as a coaching staff, we're watching certain things. We're trying to call certain plays to get certain guys the ball, or to attack certain guys, or if they're running a certain defense, we have certain offensive sets in that. And so I don't consciously think to yell things at a baseline defender when the ball's on the opposite wing. Yeah. So if you're on the bench and you see that, say it. And so that's our other thing, is if you see it, say it kind of thing. And so that's helped a lot in just developing that portion of the culture and being active. If you're at the game, if you're on the bench, then you're expected to contribute just like you would if you were on the court.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really cool. I mean, that was really nice to see that, because we struggle a little bit with that, of getting our bench to say anything, and they're just open to get in the game, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's great. What about parents? What messages do you have kind of for the parents of your players coming up? How do you interact with them, dealing with maybe if there's any disagreements on playing time or strategies? What does that kind of culture look like, especially this being your first year as the head coach? I think assistant coach, a lot of times you can kind of be the good guy in a way, and then now you're it.
We talk in depth with the parents as far as expectations, acceptable behaviors, things like that, cool down periods, ways to have conversations. So we kind of address it all at the parent meeting. Mm-hmm. If you're unhappy about something, give yourself time to cool down. Just because you're ready to talk doesn't mean that everybody's ready to talk. And so, another thing I always tell parents is, before you email me or ask me any questions, ask your player. Mm-hmm. Because if you call me and say, well, why did you pull my son out in the second quarter and he never went back in? And I say, did you ask your son? And you say no. And then I say, okay, let's all have a conversation, and let's ask him what I said to him when I pulled him out in the first quarter. We've been trying to fix your defensive awareness in practice. You're still not in the right spot in the game. If you miss another rotation, if you're out of position again, I'm pulling you and you're not going back in. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, coach, it won't happen again. And then it happened again. Mm-hmm. And then I'll look right at him and I'll say, did this conversation happen, yes or no? And when he says yes, I'll look at the parent and say, are there any other questions? Yeah. So I always tell parents, before you question one of my decisions or playing time or anything in game, make sure you have a conversation with your player too, because if it's gotten to a point where it's happened in a game, it's been addressed before the game, in the locker room during halftime, in a pregame conversation. We can't leave this guy. We're going to put you on him. You don't help off. He doesn't get a clean look all game. And then you help off and they drive and kick, and the guy we don't want open knocks down an open three. There's going to be a conversation about that, especially if we spent 2 days before the game getting ready for him, and then we had that breakdown. So if it's about playing time, ask your kid. If it's, why did coach dress you in a varsity game but didn't play you? He understands the 15-point rule. If we're up 15 in the fourth quarter, then JV guys have an opportunity to play. Mm-hmm. If the game never exceeds a 15-point lead, then I'm going with the varsity rotation. So I have that conversation in great detail with the parents at our parent meeting right after tryouts are over, and we have that conversation. I've been really fortunate that Our parents here have been really, really, really supportive. I think the parents want a coach that wants to be here, and the parents want somebody who wants to bring back the glory days of the 2020, region winning team, and the parents want success. And so I think I give them more optimism and more excitement than things to criticize. So I didn't deal with a ton of parents. I think I'll never make everybody happy, but I think I have more supporters than detractors, and more people that want to see me turn the program around, and they're excited for the things that we've done with the boys over the last year. And so I've been really fortunate to have some really good and supportive parents in the program.
I love the cool down thing you mentioned, because we had one where it was a tough loss, and then right after that, a beeline to the head coach and complaining about playing time. In my mind, I was like, that's probably the worst time to go talk when we're all pretty emotionally charged around those things. So I like how you mentioned the cool down, and even the communication around the 15-point rule. Like, that's something that I haven't heard from other coaches either. So that understanding and that kind of setting those expectations, I think, helps avoid problems in the future. How do you go about selecting your staff? What is that like, to find the coaches that are available, that are basketball guys, have the time, the space? Like, what does that look like?
So I got fortunate there too. A lot of things worked in my favor. I think the basketball gods knew I was on a short hire, and they said, "Okay, we're going to give you a few gimmies to make it easy for you." But so my sophomore coach, well, we'll start from the beginning. My freshman coach, his younger brother is actually a player on the team, and he played here, and his older brother played here. And so they're just an East High family. We had tryouts. Even before tryouts, we did open gyms, and we would have the boys kind of get together and get to know each other and play pickup games and things like that. And so I started sending out information before tryouts saying, I'm here, I'm open to new coaches. I took over the social media platforms and I posted some stuff on there. And the older brother of one of the younger kids sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm interested in coaching. I played there. I want to get into coaching and kind of give it a whirl and see how I do." And so he just kind of fell into my lap because his younger brother is in the program. He didn't end up coaching him very much. The younger brother ended up playing sophomore minutes and got a little bit of JV bench time. So he actually didn't even spend a lot of time coaching his own brother. The sophomore coach was the returning coach from 23-24. He was the sophomore coach, had great relationships with the athletic director. And so when I came in, the athletic director gave me the numbers of all the guys that had coached the year before. And then through social media and posting things and people that followed the East page, and I took over the East Instagram page and posted, my hiring, and some guys that I knew got in touch with me and said, "Hey, I've got family members that played up there. They're coaching on AAU things and travel things, and do you want me to reach out to them and see if they have any interest in coaching at the high school?" And so through that, I was actually able to get in touch with my JV coach through a mutual friend and brought him in, and we talked basketball, and he came to some open gyms and he said, "Yeah, I want to coach this group." And so I was fortunate enough to find those three. And then this year, I think I'm going to bring in a few more assistants to kind of help float around. We'll have a varsity only assistant. We'll have the sophomore and freshman and JV coaches on the bench. And then I'd like to have 2 more assistant coaches that can do kind of whatever I need.
Yeah.
The more the merrier, but things like making sure rosters are right in the stat book and making sure the managers are keeping track of all the balls and having somebody keeping in-game stats for, assists and turnovers and things like that don't show up on the stat sheet. So I can go into halftime and look and say, okay, we've got 11 assists as a team and however many turnovers. Okay, let's address that at halftime. And I like to delegate that to one of the assistants. And so I think I'm going to bring in 2 more assistants on top of the 3 head coaches and build a full staff and kind of delegate certain responsibilities to each coach.
Yeah, that's great. How do you balance the opinions of your coaches as they're given feedback to where, I don't know, it seems like the head coach, you have so many people telling you what to do, even down to the uniforms and the styles and everything else. But how do you create a culture with your coaches where they feel free to tell you if they see something or maybe disagree with something, but then also, I guess, understanding that you are the head coach and that decision does lie with you?
I encourage it. We actually got through, I think, the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and I called a coaches only meeting, and I told the coaches, I said, you're all here for a reason, and I actually need more from you. Mm-hmm. I need more opinions. I need more substitution suggestions. I need more, hey, coach, they're in this defense. Let's run this play. Or if a kid hits a few shots, hey, coach, get that guy the ball again. You know, hey, coach, this guy's got 3 fouls. He's going to be a little hands off. Let's attack him because we know we can get easy shots. I told them, I said, I'm the head coach, but this isn't the Landen and Friends show. Mm-hmm. And I need you guys to be assistants and assist me in coaching. That's why you're here, is to assist me in coaching. And so I just kind of brought everybody together, and I just said, at the end of the day, I can't watch the game and manage the bench and consciously remember who came in at what time and who came in for who. Like, there's too many things for me to do this by myself, so I need you guys to do more. And so we actually had a meeting where I kind of told them all the things that I need help with. Mm-hmm. And then I said, I want you guys to just kind of latch on to whatever you feel comfortable doing. And so it's been good. The first few games, everybody just kind of sat there quietly and let me just kind of stumble through the game and make my mistakes. And I didn't know how many timeouts I had, and I didn't realize that, you know, a guy that was having a good game that I pulled out for a water break had been on the bench for 4 minutes. And so I said, if he's having a good game and I pull him for a water break, put him back in at the next dead ball for all I care. Yeah. I said, you guys are all basketball savvy enough to understand what we're trying to do in the game to help us be successful. So I've kind of empowered them and given them the opportunity to be more vocal. And I told them, I said, with that said, I probably won't take 100% of your suggestions, but I'd rather hear it and let me decide if I want to take it or leave it than not say anything at all. So it's been really good as far as building relationships with those guys and empowering those guys. And I like to sit on the bench with them when they're coaching, or sometimes I'll sit in the first row right behind them and let them know that I'm not going to micromanage their team or tell them to check a certain kid in. But if they leave a kid on the bench too long after the game, I'll say, hey, why did he sit the whole third quarter? Just curious. And so I don't micromanage them. I let them coach. They're all good and they're all different in their own ways, and they all bring different things to the program. So I kind of just got lucky and found the group that I like, and I'm going to kind of explore the option of a few more coaches and see what we can get as kind of floating assistants. But I'm really happy with the coaching staff that we put together.
That's great. And you have a lot of experience with AAU club teams and with training other kids and all of that. So what in your mind are the big differences between AAU ball and then getting into high school ball? Kind of, I think there's pros and cons to both there of what's going on, but what do you see as the differences there?
I had a really good conversation with one of my AAU high school age players, and he said high school coaches are systematic and they're set up to showcase specific players, where AAU basketball, everybody kind of gets to just play their game. And having that conversation with a 6A varsity starter really put it into perspective that there is a way to bridge that gap and see the AAU style player in a high school environment. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think AAU coaches are are giving the boys more freedom. They're kind of letting them showcase their skill set. And in high school, it's more we're calling plays and we're running sets, and I don't think the defenses are much more intricate or advanced than what we see at the AAU level. But I think just you have an all-region player, you have a star player in your high school, and he's the featured guy, and he's the guy everybody gets the, reads the write-ups about. And you have programs that create that environment and that type of system where it's kind of one or two guys are the main guys and everybody else is a role player. In AAU games, everybody kind of plays a role and everybody gets to shoot, and it's just more of a team game, which in turn makes it more fun. And that's the takeaway I got from one of the boys was he said, I'm going to get a shirt made that says AAU and then a greater than sign, and it's going to say HS on the other side. And he said, because I just have so much more fun playing for you in our AAU and travel games than in my organized high school games. Yeah. And we still ran a lot of plays. It was a 17U circuit team, so we ran a lot of plays and we had really good competition. And so I kind of took that and said, okay, I think I want to make my high school program feel like an AAU program, in the sense where if the kids are playing defense and they're talking and they're doing the things that need to happen, then I'm going to give them probably more freedom on offense to kind of be creative and showcase what they can do and shoot once they're in range, and attack the mismatches and move the ball a couple of times and get the ball to the guy we want, and put a lot of guys in pick and rolls to create the switches. And now we've got guards trying to guard our bigs rolling to the basket. We've got your center and my point guard 20 feet from the basket, which plays in our advantage. And those are all things that we would do in the AAU world to mitigate size and different things that weren't working in our favor. So it's a conscious thing. I think coaches are focusing more so on, I've got an all-state guy and I've got an all-region guy. I've got to make sure they get their touches, and then there may be other guys that are, a 3-and-D guy who only shoots the ball 3 or 4 times a game, but his job is to play defense. In the AAU world, more players are expected to score and contribute on the offensive end, and I think that's fun. Mm-hmm. Kids today don't openly embrace roles that don't involve scoring or accumulating ticks in a stat sheet, and the few that do are kind of a rare breed and kind of a nod to old school basketball, because all these guys want to score. But I think in the high school world, it's a little different. You play through 2 or 3 guys, and in the AAU world, everybody touches it and everybody shoots it and everybody dribbles it, and I think that's probably the biggest difference between the two levels.
Yeah, no, that's great insight. What do you like outside of basketball? What are you passionate about outside of basketball?
I spend a lot of time on the court. I spend a lot of time in AAU settings and tournaments and leagues and in open gyms and scrimmages. And so the longer I coach, the more my personal life becomes the counter of my work life. And so I like to hike. I like to be out in nature and just away from everybody. I like to camp. I like to just turn the phone off and not be a basketball coach for 3 or 4 days. I spend a lot of time with my kids. My 2 younger kids are 14 and 21, and the 21-year-old's an entrepreneur, so we have entrepreneur conversations all the time. My 14-year-old daughter will be on the drill team at Riverton High this year, and so that's been fun to watch her kind of go through being on a dance company and going through tryouts and making the team and all the things that, same thing, she didn't know what she didn't know. And so even though 9th grade here, she'll academically be in middle school, but she goes to the high school for drill team practices and getting ready for competitions, and she has to be at the school at 6 a.m. And so it's fun to see that growth and development for her in something that she's super passionate about. So I spend a lot of time with her, spend a lot of time with my son. I love movies. I'm a big Marvel movie guy. Mm-hmm. I kind of do a lot of low energy, just kind of to myself things when I'm not in that loud, high energy, just charged up environment, just to kind of balance myself out.
We were talking before we started rolling here, and question, I like how you answered it, is who's your GOAT?
Yeah, so I do think the greatest is Jordan. I do. I'm a results driven guy. Winning 7 games in my first year drove me absolutely crazy. All the single digit losses we had drove me absolutely crazy. The leads we had that we gave up in the second half drove me crazy. I'm result driven. I like to win. I like to know that the work we put in to accomplish a goal is worth it. And so when you talk about the biggest stage in the pro game in the NBA finals, and the end goal is they play all these months to get there, and then if you get there and you don't win it, like, is that a good season? So for me, no would be the answer. So for me, if I have to quantify the greatest of all time for me of what I've got to watch personally, I just think going to the finals and winning the finals every time you're there is huge. I think never playing in a Game 7 in the NBA Finals is insane because you're getting the best of the best team in the league, and they still didn't have enough in them to push him to 7 games. And so he's not my favorite player. Kobe's my favorite player of all time, but I think if I had to play one game in the Olympics, at Liberty Park, at the Huntsman Center, and the NBA Finals, if I've got to have one guy, it's probably going to be Jordan.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I always thought of it that way too. If my life depended on somebody winning the finals, I don't know how you argue with.
Yeah, take the guy who never lost in the finals. I mean, getting there 10 times is crazy. It's very impressive, and I'm not taking anything away from him. The accolades and all the achievements and all the success that LeBron has had is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely one of the best to ever do it. But at the end of the day, you're the MVP of the NBA Finals every time you get there and you win. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of my motivator right there.
Well, and you're a great player too. So how did your playing style and your playing career, how does that impact your coaching?
I understand the value of a player-coach relationship. Going through junior college, I had one coach that I didn't see eye to eye with, and then once I got to Blue Mountain, I had a coach that I had a really good relationship with who helped me with recruiting, helped me set up campus visits to NAIAs and D2 schools, and coach was just super helpful and just did all the things that I needed off the court for me. Being in Oregon with my family in Utah and my immediate family in Denver, I was kind of homesick, so coach made a point to say, like, hey, we're going to take an extra day off. I know the drive's long, but if you can head down to Salt Lake and see your friends and your family, then do it. And he was really encouraging of it. And so I've been able to understand the impact that a good player-coach relationship can have. And it's definitely molded the way that I've coached and the way that I built relationships with the players and the parents. And when you get on a player, but the parent knows your intention is coming from a good place, then they can kind of have your back and say, yeah, I know what coach said kind of hurt your feelings a little bit, but if he didn't care about you, he wouldn't hold you to this level of expectation or something. You know, we had a really bad loss in a tournament with my 6th grade team in Vegas, and I just kind of crashed out on them after the game, and then I had to bring them all back in and say, okay, guys, like, you know, I'm just super passionate, and I'm super, like, I just want this, and I don't want it more than you guys do. But had our break and everything, and then one of the parents came over and said, I absolutely understand why you're frustrated. Like, the things you said about my kid were justified, and he needed to hear it. And so when I have those relationships with the players and the parents, because that's just my coaching style, it makes it easy to be tough on them and hold them accountable and have those conversations and call them out, because the parents know it's coming from a place of wanting what's best for the players to help our program.
Yeah. Now, you've been super generous with your time here. What, maybe as parting words, what is the legacy that you want to leave here at East High School?
I just want to change the culture. I think the legacy that I want to leave is just people knowing that if you go to East High School, you're going to get coached well, you're going to have a good experience. Coach is going to have fun, but when it's time to work, it's time to work. We have fun on our team builders. We make practices super competitive so that when we get to the game, that's the reward. And at the end of the day, I want to be successful. I want our boys to learn life lessons through basketball. I want to win region championships. I want to win state championships. And because I don't get a jersey and I don't get to go check into the game, it all comes down to how much I can motivate and get the guys to buy into the system and be excited to be here and represent the program. And so that's the foundation, is create a program that kids want to be a part of and that kids want to represent, and they'll do the work that needs to get done on the court to see the results. And so I told the hiring committee, I said, this isn't a stepping stone. So when I'm done here, you guys are going to have two choices: name the gym after me or build me a statue out front. Those are your two choices. We'll cross this bridge when we get to it, but just know that when I'm done here, I'm probably done coaching. It's not a stepping stone. I want to be here for as long as you guys want me here. And I told him, I said, I want what Matt Barnes has over at Olympus, 27 years, multiple state championships, sends kids off to college every year. And, I want that kind of level of impact within our program, and I want a respectable program on the court. Yeah. Doug Meacham got to Harriman, and right away his impact was felt with a similar roster to what he took over, and they made that deep run in his first year, and everybody just kind of thought it was a flash in the pan, and then he has a deep run the next year. And so I want to have that kind of impact. I want to have a Dan Lunt type impact where you're competitive year in and year out, and your guys are proud to represent your program, and the parents have your back, and you send your guys off to college after they're done at high school, and they see that success, and they say, oh, if you can play at that school, then coach will help you get to that next level. And that's what I want to create here.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. And I look forward to seeing what happens here. I told you off camera, my brother graduated from here.
Yeah.
He's a much older brother than me, but yeah, he graduated here. So a lot of memories in this gym, and it'll be fun to watch you guys this year. So thanks for taking this time.
Definitely. Thank you.